Come on. Do I sound like I'm joking? Do I sound like I'm playing? When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous. I don't think that you can handle this.
Let's shift over to Survivor. It was a wild week in Survivor. I went into last week talking about all the teams that look like they should be pretty much locks to win. Number one of those was the Baltimore Ravens. They lost. The Detroit Lions, they lost. The Cowboys, they lost. And the Eagles lost on Monday night. Mike Steph, this totaled into about 52% of my competitors all getting the boot. I did not, but I got to say it was a little bit luck more than anything. I just didn't feel like I wanted to pick Baltimore this week, but I definitely thought they were going to win, so I'm as stunned as everybody else. Coming into for week 3, I think one of the primary games to look at is the Broncos versus the Buccaneers. The Broncos are going into Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a 6.5-point favorite. Baker Mayfield and all have looked pretty spectacular, while the Broncos, as you pointed out, with Bo Nix, have not looked so great. Mike Steph, is there any reason you would not take the Buccaneers? And if you had another game to pick, what game would you be looking at?
I would stay with the Bucs. The Bucs are riding high. They're at home. You got the travel from the west to the east, early starting time, and the Buccaneers are just a better overall team, and their defense is going to have Bo Nix for lunch. So that seems like a solid pick. As for any other, there's not really a lot that I'm confident in, as in for like a sneaky, like the Rams and the 49ers. The Rams are out without their top 2 wide receivers. And if anybody saw the game over the weekend against Arizona smashed them, like literally smashed them. They wasn't even competitive. So that would be one. Even though the Rams always play the 49ers tight, they don't have the weapons. They just don't have the weapons. And the 49ers are coming off a loss. So that would be one possibility. The other possibility, and a lot of people are probably going to jump on this pick, the Raiders over the Panthers. Only due to how inept the Panthers have looked. But then you have to have the caveat that the Panthers are starting Andy Dalton. And while I'm quite sure he's way past his prime, at least he should have some type of competent play, so it wouldn't be a foregone conclusion. And last but not least, and this is a dangerous one, but the Seahawks over the Dolphins, also due to injury problems. Dolphins don't have Tua. They're going to start Skylar Thompson again at quarterback. Now, they have all the requisite weapons still in place. You still have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and A-Chain and all of them. But the Seahawks defense has been stout so far, and it's in Seattle. So I can truthfully see Seattle beating Miami. I think it'll be competitive, but being the fact that Survivor is all about just win-loss, I can see Seattle winning. So those would be my 3 games I would look for Survivor.
Definitely interesting selections. Looking at the 49ers, I think is a pretty solid look. They're 7-point favorites. Like you said, the Rams have lost both of their starting wide receivers and haven't looked necessarily great anyway. I'm just a little bit worried about the Panthers because of Andy Dalton starting. By the way, this is just stunning to me. I mean, Bryce has looked horrendous, but at the same time, I'm stunned that 2 weeks into the quarterback whisperer, they've bailed. I don't get what's going on there. I don't like it. But I do think right now, Andy Dalton probably does give him a better chance in week 3. So I'm a little scared to go against them. My 2 preferences that I will be looking at the most, though, is one, your Jets. As we just stated, I think they should win. But the game I'm going to lean on the most, that's the Cleveland Browns, 6.5-point favorites with the Giants rolling into Cleveland. It feels a little funny trying to take a quarterback that shall not be named, but I think that defense is too good and the Giants are too pitiful.
I don't even really have a comeback for that. I just personally feel that there are other games that you can actually pick than picking on the lowly Giants. For everybody thinks I'm a Giant hater. Here I am giving y'all a little bit of a fight. Like it's all these other pitiful teams, and yet you choose to pick on my Giants. Well, yeah, you know what? F it. You picked on the Giants twice. Cause didn't you pick against the Giants last week?
Yeah, how'd that work out? Washington is horrible, and I still got the W.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I'm speaking with my heart right now. So, like I said, I get it. It's just like there's other teams. Like, I don't know. I swear, it makes me feel like you think I'm a voodoo doll and you're just putting pins in me. Like,
I said I would pick the Jets. See, I don't know. I think you are not a Jets fan anymore. That's the reason you have the GI shirt, because you apparently have betrayed the Jets. I think that's the reason Cloudy's giving you the side eye over there.
listen,
All right, let's move along.
I'm gonna
A couple more games to do. All right. Sunday night, we have the Kansas City Chiefs heading over to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Kansas City is 2-0 after a narrow victory, while the Falcons, also with a narrow victory, are now 1-1. The Chiefs are 4.5-point favorites. The total is projected out to be 46.5 points. That means Vegas is saying that the Chiefs will score 25.5, while the Falcons score 21. As far as injuries, there was a major one in Kansas City. Isaiah Pacheco fractured his fibula and is out for 6 to 8 weeks projected. Samaje Perine and youngster Carson Steele are his likely replacements. Atlanta has come through Monday Night Football relatively healthy. Mike Steph, what do you think about this game? Will Kansas City do it?
For the Beef, as you said, they moved to 2-0 with last-second victory against the Bengals, but it wasn't without casualties, as you said. Patrick Mahomes had a rare bad day. 18-25, 151 yards, and 2 INTs. Travis Kelce, with his bay looking down upon him, was invisible. 1 catch for 5 yards. This will be their first road game of the season and second game in prime time already. I do believe that the Taylor Swift attention, or should I say the backlash, has subsided, if that's worth anything. Is it a good sign that they're a big toe away from potentially losing the opener and a last-second field goal against their nemesis at home from being 0-2? Will the injuries eventually catch up? That remains to be seen. Now, as for the Falcons, and get ready for the dump button, these mother effers proves to the legions of the faithful right, and most of the world wrong, with a classic big-time victory against the Philadelphia Eagles this last Monday night. Kirk Cousins led them down the field, 70 yards with no timeout, starting with a minute 39 remaining. It was surgical how he was sliced and diced the Philly defense in crunch time. He also overcame the primetime problems recently, much to my chagrin, because if anybody watched last week's episode, I was about this close. Matter of fact, I picked them, and then I was like, oh, no. Kirk Cousins after dark. No. Well, guess what? If I would have had this stat beforehand, maybe I would have been steadfast on my prediction. He's actually won 4 of the last 5 Monday night matchups. Guess what? This game is on Sunday night. Big difference. Bijan Robinson was outstanding with 97 yards on 14 carries. They actually averaged 5.4 yards on the ground as a team and over 150 yards rushing. But getting down to the matter at hand, do I believe that the Chiefs are going to actually go on the road and lose on a Sunday night? Do I believe that Kirk Cousins is going to put 2 stellar primetime games back to back? That's the battle that I am battling. So I will start with the over-under. Because it's been a trend so far this early in this season, I'm going to go under against my better judgment. I'm going to go under for the over-under. I'm going to say that the Falcons plus 3.5. I don't think they're going to win, but I think it's going to be a nail-biter, because if you think about it, the first 2 games that the Chiefs have played have been nail-biters. They have not been able to put anybody away. And I think that'll continue, especially with their first game on the road, especially in the land of the ATL. So I will go under Atlanta plus 3.5.
I agree with what you said. Kansas City has not really been able to put the last 2 teams away, but it was the the Ravens, who were contenders for the Super Bowl, and the Bengals, who were supposed to be contenders for a Super Bowl, if not for Burrow's injury last year. So, although we're pretty high on the Falcons coming into the season, I don't think the Falcons have shown yet that they are quite that upper echelon team. They should be a playoff team, but I don't think that they are necessarily a Super Bowl contender like the teams that the Kansas City Chiefs have played week 1 and week 2. So I feel pretty confident with that 3.5 points. By the way, I'm not sure if I said it. I might have said 4.5 points. The 3.5 is what it is now. 4.5 points was what it was last night. So this spread is shrunk because of the Falcons win. I'm happy that it shrunk because I think the Kansas City will win by 4 or more. As far as that over-under, that gets really interesting. I think I will go with the over. My only theory on that is that Kirk Cousins did look a little bit more like himself last week. So if he's going to look like himself, Atlanta should be able to put up about 20, 21 points. And I think Kansas City will put up enough to make that go over. All right. We actually have 2 Monday night games. So, yeah. And I don't know. One of these games, I don't want to see it all. But anyway, we'll get to that game in a minute. First, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars heading to Buffalo to face the Bills. The Jaguars are 0-2. Trevor Lawrence says they suck right now, while the Buffalo Bills are 2-0 and living the high life. The Bills are 5.5-point favorites. The total is projected to be 45.5 points. That means Jacksonville would score 20, while Buffalo would score 25.5. As far as injuries, Jacksonville had a pretty bad injury right in the pregame last week. Evan Ingram pulled a hamstring. He is week to week. Meanwhile, the Bills lost their middle linebacker, Terrell Bernard, to a pectoral strain, and he is expected to miss about a month. Mike Steph, what do you think about this game?
I will start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, this fortunate team has proven me right so far. 0-2 with the lost quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, who was 14 of 30 for 220 yards last week. Yes, it was against a good defense. Yes, he was against the Browns, but it still wasn't good enough. They're only averaging 15 points per game, and to me, they're an overall boring team, much like their ownership. I'm fully prepared to see them get exposed to the national audience on a Monday night stage. What they do well, pass, run, defense, they're mundane in every category. Dry as toast with no butter. Dry as an episode of AEW Collision on a Sunday instead of a Monday. That's pretty dry. Now, when it goes to the Bills, they started 2-0 and have looked more like the version that ended last season on the tear, with the intention to running the ball and keeping Josh Allen under control. Allen has been completing passes at a 73% clip and playing some of his best ball ever. Joe Brady has really overhauled the mentality of this offense and has definitely made up for the loss of Stephon Diggs, which actually may be a plus. Addition by subtraction. Putting points on the board for the Bills is not a problem. 32.5 points per game so far. The defense has done its part, getting pressure and turnovers at a steady clip. 5.5, yeah, I think Buffalo's going to cover. The over-under, I want to say under. I really do want to say under. But if you combine what the Bills are averaging and you combine what the Jaguars are averaging, that leads to about 48 points. The over-under is 45.5. I'm surprised I'm doing math like this because that's usually my partner's thing. So I will go reluctantly over just because I think Buffalo is going to blow them out. And I think Buffalo is going to probably put up like 35 to 40 points by themselves. So Bills to cover and over.
I think I'm with you this game. The thing that's interesting to me is that I think the Jaguars are better than they've shown these first 2 weeks. And I think the Bills are not as good as they've shown these last 2 weeks. I still think the Bills are going to hit a roadblock one of these weeks when they need a big play and they have nobody to really get the ball to. I still think that they'd be better off if they had Diggs or at least some number one wide receiver. They don't. but I just don't think it's going to matter this game. So I'm with you. I'm going to take the Bills into 5.5 points, and I'm going to take the over. Just like you, I think the Bills might run up the score, and I think the Jaguars will score enough to get the over. Now let's move over to the second Monday night game. And this one, why? We have the Washington Commanders heading over to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. The Bengals are 8-point favorites. This, by the way, is a prime survivor pick game in itself. The Bengals are 8-point favorites, and the projected total is 48.5 points. That means Vegas is saying that Washington will score 20.25, while Cincinnati scores 28.25. As far as injuries, Cincinnati has T. Higgins saying he's headed in the right direction, whatever that means. Meanwhile, BJ Hill and Sheldon Ranks left last week's game. They're questionable for this week. I do not have any injuries on the Washington Commanders. Mike Steph, why are we playing this game? And is there any chance that the Bengals actually don't cover this spread?
I don't know why we're playing this game, but the better matchup would have been the Bengals and the Bills. That should have been the Monday night matchup. And then you should have had the Commanders and the Jaguars in a 1 o'clock slot with the fourth string commentators stashed away on CBS or Fox, something like that. They should not have split the difference. I'm sorry. That's just me. Rant over. Commanders, they are coming off a last-second victory against the New York Giants. Jaden Daniels got his first victory of his career. One early problem is the fact that they can't score touchdowns. If you are kicking 7 field goals, that means you have a problem on offense and punching the ball in. All of them wasn't like long distance. But the other problem is they can't play defense at all. The secondary is beyond suspect. But once again, why do we need to see this team on Monday night? Now, Cincinnati's 0-2 again. They're starting slowly again. Joe Burrow is averaging 6.7 yards per attempt and 9.5 yards per completion. Jamar Chase, who's supposed to be their home run hitter, he's only averaging 9.7 yards per catch on 10 catches. So he has 10 catches, 97 yards. That's not great. Do you know that actually Mike Gesicki has more receiving yards than Jamar Chase? Something is wrong with that picture. The explosiveness has not been there at all. The running game has been non-existent. I'm quite sure they are missing Joe Mixon. And last but not least, they are garnering a lowly 17 points per game scoring. And that's not going to get it done. The Bengals, I want to say they're going to cover, but tell you the truth, they still haven't played well enough that I'm confident in that 8-point spread. So I will say Commanders +8, and that over-under, I'm going under because, once again, neither of these teams could put the ball in the end zone. So I'm going under and Commanders +8.
Like you said, both these offenses have been struggling. I think there's 2 things for Cincinnati that is going to be a striking advantage here. One, T. Higgins headed in the right direction. Means there's a possibility he plays this week, maybe.
Quote unquote.
But the bigger thing is actually on the Commander side that helps the Bengals is that their defensive backs are horrendous, particularly their corners. I think this is the week that Jamar Chase goes off with Higgins or without. I expect them to have a pretty big week. I expect them to win by more than 8. But as much as I like Jaden Daniels as far as fantasy, he has not shown much as a true NFL quarterback quite yet. So I'm going to take the Bengals minus the 8 points, and I'm still going under because I think the Bengals are going to put up a pretty solid score, and Washington is not going to score much at all. Mike Steph, take us home.
Before I do sign off, I'd like to give a shout out to fellow 19 Media Group podcast. Shout out to Hip to the Games with Desmond Powell. Shout out to Gimmick Infringement with Tyler McDowell and Brad Winchester. Shout out to NBA Baseline with Warren Shore and Cal Lee. Shout out to the whole team, to the whole media group. So let me get this out of here. Hidden Gems Football has been a part of the media group. Goodbye.
Tochi be back. And by the way, I'm the only Jets fan here.
This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
You wait until next week. Stu, damn it. There, you caught me. I didn't even have a good comeback. And you still recording? Oh,
still recording. And you had a chance. Yeah, it's over now.
I have trust and faith that he's going to leave it in because he's a man of integrity. He's a man of class. He is a man of few words.